Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Chapter 1073 of the One Piece manga brought us a lot of interesting events about several characters, and Chapter 1074 promises to bring us even more incredible events, possibly being a chapter that's going to reveal the past of some very important characters. So in today's video, we're going to talk about our expectations for Chapter 1074 of One Piece, what events might happen, and what revelations this chapter might bring us. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, and even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it continues to motivate us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, at the beginning of this chapter, we're likely to see the Straw Hats and the Punks gathering together with the Seraphim, getting ready to leave Egghead Island before more enemies can show up. Luffy is probably likely to still be looking for Bonnie and the real Vegapunk, who are currently near a large bubble of Kuma's memories, which means it won't be that hard for Luffy to find them since Vegapunk told Luffy where he'd be. So if Luffy finds Bonnie and Vegapunk, it might be right as Bonnie is looking in Kuma's memories, causing him to be overwhelmed by the large bubble of memories. In this way, we might get to see Bonnie finish all of her father's past, as well as when she finally learns the reasons that led him to accept the procedure of transforming his body into a robot completely. That should be the moment where we get the flashback of Kuma's past, revealing to us his past as king, how his relationship with Bonnie was, what led him to become or known as a tyrant king, how his journey as a pirate went, and also how he ended up becoming a revolutionary and later Vegapunk's guinea pig. Since this isn't the first time something like this has happened in the One Piece universe, we could be looking at a major plot twist, which makes any kind of idea about Kuma's past just an idea, because Oda could decide to take his story in a completely different direction. At the end of the flashback, we'll also get to see what Bonnie decides, whether she still wants to take Vegapunk's life, or if she understands what her father did and decides to then escape the island. But regardless of what Bonnie chooses, she's likely going to join up with Vegapunk and the Straw Hats at least temporarily so she can get off the island safely, and also so she can help her father, who must be somewhere still being controlled. So she might just choose to leave Vegapunk alive and help him escape from the Marines, because if she does that, then Vegapunk's going to owe her something. And since they do have some interests that align, this might be something at least for a temporary way where Bonnie can get what she wants, and maybe even get a little bit further information about her father Kuma. Another thing that we'll get to see is that once Bonnie knows about Kuma's past, Vegapunk is going to end up giving her something, because he did say that he had something to give her in person. This could be something that involves Kuma, perhaps a gift that he left for Bonnie before turning into a full robot, so that Bonnie would further understand his motives. Or it could even be something much more important that'll help Bonnie on her journey, being her final parting gift from her father. But we're only going to know what this gift is in the next chapter or two. After Bonnie and Vegapunk finish their business with each other, they're going to end up going back and meeting up with the other pirates and the scientists to figure out a way to escape from the island. Now, even though CP0 was defeated, there's still a possibility that new enemies are gonna show up and make landfall, because they may not be all that far away. Now, currently, everyone on the island does not know it, but the Navy is headed straight for the island and are looking to completely surround it to prevent anyone from escaping Egghead Island. The main target is gonna be Vegapunk, who is responsible for causing this great battle that is taking place on his island. So we'll see everyone gearing up with all the weapons and technology, getting ready to flee the scene, leaving Egghead and changing our focus over to Sphinx Island. It's also probable that we're going to get to see a little bit more about the conversation between Marco and Miss Bakken, also known as Buckingham Stussy, the very Stussy that Vegapunk was inspired to create a clone of that's currently on Egghead Island. If this conversation continues, it's really likely that Marco is going to demand some answers from Bakken, wanting to know why Vegapunk is a reliable source to confirm that Weevil really is the son of Edward Newgate. Depending on her answer, this could end up making Marco join the group in the future, just to save Weevil, as this character could be extremely important for the final story of One Piece, and could end up being a really essential ally for the Straw Hats. As it appears, Bakken is an old friend of Vegapunk, and even allowed the scientist to clone her and then use that clone for his own benefit. Another thing is, we don't know yet how Vegapunk could be responsible for Weevil's creation, because Weevil, aside for the mustache and some of this brute strength, he doesn't really seem to be completely the son of Edward Newgate. As we know, Whitebeard would have never abandoned one of his own children, especially if it was blood related. It's much more likely that somehow Vegapunk managed to make the real Stussy pregnant with Edward Newgate through the cells of the former Yonko, allowing her to have a child with him without his knowledge. After all, Vegapunk and Stussy are both great scientists. Now, though Vegapunk has only been truly recognized, and Stussy has been forgotten over time, the fact that Stussy's clone was able to infiltrate the criminal underworld and then become a CP0 agent, which is an organization that directly serves the Gorosei, this demonstrates how smart Stussy is, and therefore the original Stussy that she came from is gotta be just as smart. Another interesting side note is that the world nobles seem to know pretty much the secret of everything, so it'd be kind of strange for them not to recognize the CP0 agent as a Stussy clone, or the Stussy pirate herself who had once belonged to the Rock's pirate crew. So although Stussy was a great pirate and very intelligent scientist, belonging to the greatest pirate crew pretty much in the world, she might not have achieved the same fame around the world, but rather she managed to obtain the ability to befriend Vegapunk. Through this friendship, they might have worked on creating clones together and several other different research projects until they reached the desired result. Now, in the case of Vegapunk, this is the creation of a perfect clone, and in the case of Stussy, the creation of a son of her very own, and a son, no less, of Edward Newgate. Now that Stussy has proven herself to be an ally of Vegapunk, this opens up the possibility for Weevil to become an ally, and thus helping the Straw Hats at some point in the future after being rescued from the Marines. And finally, let's talk about the most likely and most important event in this chapter: the arrival of Admiral Kizaru and Saint J. Garcia Saturn on Egghead Island, something that is going to cause panic in the Straw Hat and Vegapunk crews. Two extremely powerful and important characters worldwide are going to be on that island, and their main goal is going to be preventing anyone from fleeing that island. We already know Kizaru is extremely powerful, and the skills that we've seen over the multiple times he's appeared, he's shown that he has a power on the same level of a Kainu's. As for Saturn, now we don't know for sure, but not even the Straw Hats or Vegapunk may know the great potential of this Gorosei. I mean, they may not end up knowing who he really is, but because he's going to Egghead, that's gotta mean he's gonna fight to take Vegapunk's life. And if it turns out he ends up fighting, this could prove that this character is extremely powerful, just like the other Gorosei. Even at the advanced stage he appears to be, they could still possess immense strength similar to that of an admiral, or even possess some important technique, or even surpass all of that I just mentioned. With the arrival of Saturn and Kizaru, this is going to mean that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, possibly even Stussy's clone, will have to get into the fray to keep them distracted. Meanwhile, Vegapunk and the other Straw Hats are gonna have to figure out a way to escape the island now that it's been surrounded by Marines. The clash between all of these characters could end up being an amazingly epic one. A fight where it might take a few chapters to reach the end, and could even bring the unexpected ending of Luffy being defeated by Kizaru or even Saturn. I mean, at this point, it would be impossible to predict a winner and who would come out on top in this fight, especially with the X factor of the Gorosei. We don't know who they are, what their powers are, how old they are, because they could be hundreds or thousands of years old. So it's just going to be dependent on how Oda wants to see this play out and how it sets us up for the next part of this saga. One last thing that we also want to mention that could be a really big deciding factor about whether it's the world government or the pirates and Vegapunk come out on top is going to depend on how the Seraphim are used, because now that a Gorosei is gonna be on Egghead Island, the Seraphim are completely at the mercy of the world government. The Gorosei have a higher authority over the Seraphim than even Vegapunk himself, which will create a huge problem for the Straw Hats and Vegapunk himself. We also can't forget that Lucci and Kaku could end up waking up, becoming yet another obstacle for the Straw Hats. So we're gonna have to see how these next few chapters play out and exactly what's gonna end up happening to the Straw Hats. So with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it? What are you looking forward to in these next few chapters? Seeing Kuma's story play out, how everything's gonna play out with Sphinx Island, and how we're gonna know that Weevil is Whitebeard's son? Or the impending arrival of Kizaru and the Gorosei? Next, who do you think these Gorosei are, and what do you think his power level's like? Is he just there because he has the authority over the Seraphim and with a word can turn the tide of battle? Or do you, like others in the community, think that the Gorosei have a special power set? That it's not just the fact of who they are in the world, but really their overall power physically and otherwise that earns them the respect they have? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.